Hi everyone, I'm Maimah Karmo and I'm your host for Breathe TV, a safe space to come to breathe and to exhale as you navigate your breast cancer journey. So my guest today is Tameka Johnson. She is somebody who I totally admire so very much, also known as Evolving Soul, and which she is. She's been through so much at a young age, and she will really inspire you to understand the importance of knowing your body and navigating survivorship and knowing that cancer could be a long-term journey and how to survive and thrive and evolve as a soul as that is happening. Tameka is also the cover girl of our magazine, My Life Matters, and she is so beautiful. But you're gonna hear her story from her mouth, telling you all about her evolving journey and what made her so strong and also so resilient as she's gone through this, so many challenges and so many different things that she's grown into. For those of you who watch the episodes, Breathe TV, I always begin with a mantra, and I always talk about the importance of breathing. When you're going through cancer treatment, you know, many of us just we start breathing in here, not in our bellies. We get overwhelmed. And I find that for me, I am statements or affirmations really help me to calm and to ground, because when your body's under attack, you disconnect. You're someplace up here and not in your body, you're not grounded. But I'm gonna let Tameka do the honors and do them for us today.
Okay.
As I always say, if you're driving, don't close your eyes and don't take your hands off the wheel. But if you are not, you can close your eyes and put your hand on your heart and on your belly. And then we'll just go ahead and have Tameka start saying the affirmations.
I am healed.
I am healed.
I am enough.
I am enough.
I am worthy.
I am worthy.
I am blessed.
I am blessed.
I am more than a conqueror.
I am more than a conqueror.
I am evolved.
I am evolved. And so it is.
It is so.
So Tameka, you've been through so much in your journey, and I've known you for a while through just the magazine and talking and events. You have a book out that is called Evolving Soul. But as we all know, you know, cancer is it's just not for the faint of heart. But you managed to evolve, and your spirit's whatever happens that tries to conquer you, your spirit's so intact. But for those who are just meeting Tameka, I want you to share, who you are, when you were first diagnosed, and then what's your journey's been like over the past, 20-something years?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I am a mom first. I'm a girl mom, a mom of a teen who is my biggest supporter and my caretaker, number one caretaker. I am a survivor, a warrior. I am a teacher, a coach to some. I used to coach cheerleading when I was teaching special education. I was a high school teacher, grades 9 through 12. When I was originally diagnosed with breast cancer, the hardest thing I had to do was leave my job and not support those who I had grown to love so much. But what I had to remember was when I was 13 and diagnosed with cancer, bone cancer, I always said that I wanted to help. And I got my chance to do that. And so now I'm continuing to help, but just in a different way. And
Can we go back to your 13-year, you were 13 years old when you first had your cancer diagnosis.
Yes.
Can you share what that was like, and this whole big thing began for you more than half your lifetime ago?
Right. So I was 13 when I was originally diagnosed with cancer. It was osteosarcoma, cancer of the femur. It was a little rare at the time. Only myself and another girl actually were diagnosed at the same time in the same hospital. She was actually my same age, and hers was in the opposite leg. But I was diagnosed at 13. I remember it like it was yesterday, because when I went in for my biopsy, that same day I was admitted to start my chemo because they said that the tumor was the size of a baseball. And it had gotten that big because I had been misdiagnosed for 6 months. I was told, my mother was told that I was having a growth spurt. And that's why I was having the pain in my knee and the swelling in my knee. And I just knew something was wrong. That it wasn't anything right about how I was feeling. And I just kept complaining and telling my mother something was wrong, something was wrong. And she kept taking me back. And every x-ray they did, every exam was that I was having a growth spurt. The final time I went and complained, my grandmother took me, and I remember the guy saying, when her mother comes back, she needs to bring her in right away. And my grandmother was like, well, I'm her grandmother. You could tell me what's going on. And he was like, no, we have to tell her guardian. We can't tell you. And so my mother came back in town and she took me back in, and he said, there's a tumor on her knee. And tumor, I immediately knew was cancer. And I asked my mom if I was going to die. And my mom said no. And that is the day that I began my fight. I went from doctor to doctor for scans. At 13, I'm running around different places going to get scans. And then finally the biopsy that I had. And then they admitted me in the hospital the same day. I started chemo as a child, and on the children's unit, I saw different children going through different things and fighting cancer. So, you know, we all were there fighting cancer, but we had different types of cancer. Kids had brain cancer, kids had melanoma, just different types of cancer. And that was something that made me grow up. I had to grow up a little faster than I wanted to because I was fighting for my life at 13. And I didn't know exactly what that was going to look like, but it definitely was a hard road, especially for someone so young.
Right. And at 13, everything's changing. Your body's changing. You're like, oh, boys, you're thinking about your hair, your breasts are just everything's just your hormones, all that's happening. You're more aware of life. There's friendships, there's school, there's high school, there's all these things that your world is changing anyway.
Right.
And then as you're going through one major life change, then your body's going through the cancer journey.
Yeah.
And that has a huge impact.
I think that at that time, when I was 13, I didn't really understand it then. I understand it more now. I wanted to be normal then, whatever that.
What do you consider normal?
Whatever that looked like.
Because even people who are well are not sometimes normal.
You're right. Right. But in my 13-year-old mind, that was having my hair, that was going to school and not being home and not being in the hospital for Christmas or Thanksgiving, because there were times where I wasn't able to be with my family on Christmas or Thanksgiving. I was admitted into the hospital during those times sometimes. So it meant, not getting sick from the kids when I did go to school, not being teased because I got teased.
What is that?
Like
for having cancer?
For having cancer. Yes, I got teased. I was treated like I was infectious. Like people didn't want to touch me. People didn't want to be around me. People treated me like that. And it was hard to the point where I never wanted to talk about it. I never wanted to talk about having cancer at that time. And then I was diagnosed at 31 with the breast cancer. And I'm like, okay, God.
Before you tell me that, you must have had to build some kind of toolkit mentally, spiritually, physically. Like something has to happen, a shift in your mind for you to be able to get through the life for all those years. So can you share with the audience, what are the things that you learned that help you to cope?
My faith has always been my lifeline. Like if you see some of my posts, I'll always say that, like my faith is my lifeline. I grew up in the church. I was raised in the church, and that is my foundation. So growing up, literally that was how I got through. And managing, going back and forth to the doctors because I had to go every year to get my knee checked because I have a prosthesis in my right knee. So if you watch me closely, you'll see that I have like somewhat of a limp because I do have a prosthetic device in my right leg. And so I have to go back and forth to the doctor. I had to go every, 6 months, then a year, then every 3 years, and so on and so forth. So through all of that, it's just maintaining my faith is what I knew that I had to do and just stand strong in that.
Your faith was your anchor, pretty much. So that now you're at 31 years old. And then what happens?
31, I found a lump in my left breast. And
were you doing a breast self-exam or?
I was doing a breast self-exam at home. And it's a funny story. I was like feeling it. And then I was like, yeah, I don't know. This doesn't feel right. So I got to work, and one of my coworkers, I was like, listen, I need you to come feel this because I want to make sure that I'm not crazy. And so she's like,
is it a she or a he?
She.
Okay.
And she's
just
like,
checking.
She's like, okay, So I'm like, so we go in the bathroom and then I'm like, I need her to, she's like, Tameka, you need to go and get checked. And I went and I got checked. And my doctor said, I'm going to send you for a sonogram and a mammogram. So I went for both. And when the mammogram machine squeezed my breast, fluid came out of my nipple. So I knew automatically right then that it was cancer. Like I just felt it. After that exam, they told me to wait, that the radiologist wanted to see me. That was another indication that something was wrong for me. She took me back in a room and she showed me the tumor and she showed me where it was. And she said, this looks like cancer, but I'll let your doctor, explain things to you further, but I wanted to show it to you. And from that, I went to the doctor and she said it was cancer.
What stage?
Originally, I was diagnosed stage 0. And then once they went in to take it out, they said it was stage 2. HER2, estrogen receptor, and progesterone receptor positive.
And what stage are you now?
Now I am stage 4, diagnosed in 2017. So from 2013, 31, 2017, 36, I was diagnosed again with cancer for a third time.
Anyone looking at you would say that she's a picture of health. So I know that part of it's like, this is your life, and it's been your whole life dealing with cancer. And we now hear a lot about survivorship. And we know that doesn't mean that you're living without disease. It means that you may have cancer at any stage. And it's a way of, there's tools now, and there's even legislation about ways to help people living with cancer for a long time, or even without cancer, and what your needs might be. What does survivorship mean for you as you go through this entire your life?
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I do use the word thriver for myself. But I was talking to my daughter one time and we were talking about surviving and thriving. And she said, in order to thrive, you have to survive.
100%.
So both of those words are useful for me because I am thriving because I'm pushing myself to survive. And so survivorship looks like for me just living the best life that I can live, the best way that I can live it. that's, enjoying time spent with my daughter, enjoying wellness activities, meditation, Reiki. I go to the spa, and my spa is a pool and things like that. So
What about acupuncture?
I do acupuncture also.
I tried for the first time last month. Now I'm hooked.
Now you're hooked.
That's so awesome.
It's awesome, right?
Tell me about your book as well. It's called Evolving Soul, right?
It's called Evolving Soul. It's my story. It's about my life. It's about how I became and how I'm becoming the woman that God has intended for me to be. How I've gotten to the space of evolving, and how I've gotten to this space of loving me differently and seeing myself differently, seeing myself the way that I feel like it's through God's eyes and not through my own. Because if I look at myself through my own eyes, I don't see what God sees. I don't see the advocate. I don't see the person who would be sitting here talking to you. I don't see that because I'm such an introvert and I'm so like in my shell. But I know that God's plan for my life was bigger than the cancer, is bigger than the cancer. So writing this book and me being able to tell my story and the things that have happened to me along the way of being diagnosed with cancer, and then the way that I come through the trials that I had is what my book is about. I do give the meditation. I talk about the meditation. I talk about, me going to Reiki and just doing the different healing things for myself, because that's what helped me. I talk about, how I've become this person of wanting to continually grow and evolve and become. So I'm just on a journey of living and of just continually learning who I am, learning what God has for me, learning the place and space that I'm supposed to be in life.
I love that. That's
Thank
so
you.
beautiful. You had cancer at 13, so I'm sure you learned to early on ask for what you wanted. You learned to ask for what you needed. How did that help you as you grew in life and other things happened, like knowing what to do and how to be your own advocate?
To be honest with you, I didn't learn that early on.
You did not?
I did not. Even being a child and having cancer, I just went with what the doctor said. My mother went with what the doctor said. So I was just following the lead of my mother, and my mother was following the lead of the doctors. My mother not being educated on advocating more for me. And then she was a single mother.
Did you have siblings?
I do. I have an older brother on my dad's side, and then I have a younger sister with my mom. So she had my sister too at the time that I was in the hospital. And during that time, my sister and my mom actually were in a very bad accident, leaving the hospital from seeing me to where glass cut my sister almost into her eye. So, my mom just making it with 2 girls and living. So during that time, I didn't know. When I was diagnosed at 31, because of everything that I went through as a child, the horrible things that I felt like I went through as a child, I was just kind of like, okay, I just want to get through this. And it wasn't until I was diagnosed with the metastatic breast cancer that I really became an advocate for myself, honestly. It wasn't until the doctor told me, here, take these chemo pills, and didn't know if it was still the breast cancer that I had showed up in my collarbone and in my lung that was actually there a year before. Here, take these these chemo pills. And I said, I want to go and get a second opinion. And he said, you can do that, but the results won't change. And so I said, okay. And that day was the last day that I saw him, because I was determined not to go back.
How did you learn to navigate taking your doctor's advice, what they said, and then balancing it with, well, I appreciate your advice, but I want to explore other options, and not being afraid to do that, to speak up for yourself?
I just said it. I just said it and I meant
like,
it.
Listen.
Yeah, I said it and I meant it. You know, I had trusted him along the way at that time, and everything that had happened was okay. Everything that had happened was right. So I was like, okay, I can put my trust into what he's saying. But in that moment, I knew that I had to do something different. And so I did. And once I said it, I meant it. I went to see another doctor. I was really comfortable. It was actually at the same hospital where I was treated as a kid. So I was really comfortable with her. I explained to her what I wanted, how I wanted a team approach. I wanted everybody to be able to discuss, you know, what was going on with me and decide as a team. I wanted to be a part of the team. And that's what she made me, a part of the team. And so I was okay with that. I needed that. I want to hear what medications you guys are thinking of, why you're thinking of giving me those medications, what's the next steps. So those are the things that I received from this new team that I had started with when I was metastatic. And from that day, when I told her that this is what I'm looking for, from that day, that's what I get. You just have to be sure in what you want and then say it and stand on it, 10 toes down in it. Because if you don't, then they'll take over and say, they'll do it their way. But you have to do it your way. You have to be your own best advocate. You are your own best advocate. You cannot let anybody take the lead in your health journey.
That's powerful words. So you're as staunch in your survivorship as you are with your spirituality. I love that you're doing all the things that like grounding you in, you know, doing all you can do. When you know better, you do better, right? And you're moving, right. You're asking for, you're advocating, all that. I do love the fact that you talk about soul a lot, and your soul, like your soul and the evolution. A lot of people get, you know, when you get cancer, there's so much fear in that space, but there's opportunity also to kind of use the challenge as a catalyst to realize who you're meant to become. Mm-hmm. And I always say no one's getting out of here alive. Unless something changes, we all have a path of being on this earth for some time, then we evolve into spiritual beings or whatever we consider next for us. So it's so important. And I think if you're struggling with something, especially with cancer, as you're dealing with that, like Tameka does, you're doing all the things you have to do to get the right treatments, the right team. But you're asking yourself, what am I here to do? Why am I on this planet? Who can I serve while I'm here? And you're always asking for that guidance to be able to do the things right. that you are meant to expand into, and asking God to expand your territory. Yep. So as you're surviving, you're thriving for yourself, for your daughter, and for the community you're serving. And as you do that, these things we're doing, they change the ripple across the world, and they spread beyond what we think, you know? Right. So for somebody who is living with cancer, and whether they're a young person or, you know, at any stage, early stage or metastatic, what are the things someone can do to kind of evolve their soul? You've evolved quite a bit. We're always still evolving, right? But you've had to do a lot of work to get here, right? So how can you advise somebody watching on what to do to be like Tameka?
For me, it was putting myself in spaces that I knew would help me grow spiritually and help me grow emotionally. Because I always tell people that this journey for me, or to me, is more of a battle of the mind than physical. And if your mind isn't strong, your body will follow. And that's what I believe. And so strengthening up your heart space, strengthening up, which means like reading positive things, positive messages, positive mantras, positive quotes, books on elevation, books on pursuing self, books on learning more about self, or books on loving self more. Those are some of the things that I would recommend for someone who wants to grow internally. I did a lot of watching sermons I still do. I watch my sermons. I have my meditation time. I have, I read the books that are going to help me to be a better Tameka, whatever that is for me and whatever that is for you, that is what you should do, I feel, in order to help your soul to grow, in order to evolve, and also talk and speak positively around yourself. Speak life into yourself and life into your situation. It is hard. 100%. I'm not going to say that it isn't. And I'm not always that positive. But I know that a lot of times I tell myself, like, God, just be my strength. God, be my strength. God, be my strength, because I can't do it in my own strength. Or, God, be a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. And like you said, God, expand my territory and help me to see where you want me led to, or what you want me to do. Like, even being a part of Tigerlily, I always tell people, like, Tigerlily is, I found my tribe in Tigerlily. Like, I found where I'm supposed to be, because I was connected to other organizations and I didn't feel the way that I felt being a part of Tigerlily. I feel so grounded in this space, and the love and the care and the support that you and the organization gives is so amazing. And I tell people that all the time. So I'm just grateful that I've found my tribe in Tigerlily.
All the things that we're doing, they're about life and love and family and living legacy. And we want to be here to enjoy this beautiful life that we have, right? And so when you go through all these things, you hear about the treatments and the trials and all these other, receptors and all these things. And I'm like, what do I want to feel? I want to feel love. Mm-hmm. I want to feel safe. So one thing that we hear when the patients who are metastatic here at some point is that they're offered palliative care.
Yes.
And that word scares people. Can you tell me what that word means for you and why it's maybe supportive and not scary?
So I really didn't understand what palliative care was initially. And then when my doctors and nurses started to talk to me about it, I realized how supportive it was. So for me, it looks like right now, because of everything that I've gone through, I had a tube in my side to drain the fluid from my lung.
That was even recently, right?
Yes, this was all recently. So within, I want to say around like March. So March is when I had the tube placed in. And then I started to have more issues with the tube, painful. So they had to get my pain regimen medication correct. So that's when the palliative care team stepped in. So they help with managing my pain. They help with me having physical therapy now and OT now at home, because the tube is now out. So I have to learn basically how to use my core again. And then I have a nurse who checks in on me every week. So, and with this new program at the hospital, they have a tablet that they send to me, and that's how they monitor everything, all my medications, all of my appointments, who I need to speak with and when. So it helps me keep track of everything. And when it was explained, they talked about it's kind of like a step before hospice is what they explained it. But it's not a negative thing. It's support, basically.
But it doesn't mean that you're going to die, right? Like the next month, 6 months, a year. It's more like supportive care.
Yes.
Right?
Supportive care, in-home supportive care.
Speaking of which, one of the things I'm super excited about is that you got onto the platform that we just put out there, Raise platform.
Right.
The cool thing about it is that the platform was built for patients, with patients, by patients. People who are patients had insight the entire time into building it. Can you share with our audience what Raise is, why you got on the platform, and what are the things you like and what you want to see? And then let's make it happen.
Okay. I was a part of the initial group who gave input with WIT. about Raise, and I was so excited to see this launch because it was amazing. When I first logged in and I saw that someone can actually ask for help without actually asking for help, because we know that everyone doesn't want to ask for help. It's hard for people to ask for help. I am one of those people that it's hard to ask for help. I've put on there, it's hard for me to do housework. So someone helping me with cleaning my house, someone helping me with getting groceries financially, someone helping me with rides for my daughter to get to maybe her practice, or just letting my family and friends know, this is what I need help with. So it's a great platform. They actually like it. They've gone in to look at it and said, okay, so when do you need this done? I know that I saw this on the platform that you needed house care. I'm going to come by on this day, so that's a great thing that it's reaching out to people without reaching out to people.
Yeah, it is hard to ask for help. And the thing about Raise, so for those who are wondering what is Raise, we partnered with a company that it creates technology called WIT. And what we did is create a platform that was patient driven to help patients get things they need without asking for them. So you can log to the platform, you log in there, create your user interface, and then you put all your needs, what your needs are. You can get help from your family or friends directly.
Right.
You can get help through donors who could be anonymous or not, from who are not your family and friends.
Right.
You can get help from partnerships we're establishing with other companies and other nonprofits that may have like pet care or, or meal support, things like that. And then, so literally we hear about people having barriers to, staying in treatment because they don't have what they need to live and to survive, life.
I'm really happy to be a part of something that I see growing so largely.
Before we sign off, I want you to tell the viewers how they can find your book is it on Amazon?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So my book is on Amazon. It is called Evolving Soul by Tameka Johnson. Also, you can message me. I have some books at home. If you want a book signed, I can sign a book for you and send it over. So there's also a link in the My Life Matters magazine if you have that magazine, or if you get the digital copy.
Tameka, you've been so amazing. I love here, it says a life of purpose, on purpose. That's the tagline on the cover here. But you are an evolving soul and you inspire us all to be evolving souls. And thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Until next time, love yourself, love others, and keep evolving your beautiful soul. Thank you and bye for now.